Hello, welcome to another episode of Theo-Sight Network, where we discuss critical issues that are very important to our society. And today we are examining a complex but urgent topic: folk religion, justice, and human rights in Nigeria. Many Nigerians identify as Christians or Muslims, but still hold deep rooted beliefs in supernatural forces, ritual sacrifices, and justice, spiritual justice. This duality often leads to harmful practices, including ritual killings and human rights violations. And to help us unpack all of these things, we have a distinguished guest, a theologian, lecturer, and pastor, a mentor to many as well. Welcome to the show, Dr. Godwin Adeboye. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Damilola. I'm also very pleased to join this very important conversation.
You're welcome, sir. So to start, let's start with the basics. Many Nigerians practice Christianity or Islam, like I said earlier, yet people still hold on to what we call folk religion beliefs, especially in witchcraft, spiritual protection, and even ritual sacrifices. If not, why do we see sacrifices or things, substances in small or big calabash in at T junctions, even in urban areas? So that's to tell you that these things are still very much in practice. So why do you think that this dual belief system persists even till now?
Yes, thank you once again, Damilola. I am very pleased to join and to give my opinion on this very important subject matter in our country and in Africa as a continent, even in some other part of the world. We have well-meaning Nigerian Christians and Muslims who have regard for their scriptures. However, we still have some percentage of Christians and Muslims who, in spite of their scriptures, they still adopt certain local cultural practices, certain traditions.
Should they be called Christians though?
Yeah, and that's why we technically refer to them as folk Christians and folk Muslims. Recent databases indicate that we have up to 10% of this category of Christians and Muslims in Nigeria. Now, as to the question of why does this practice or this phenomenon of folk religion, persist in Nigeria? The first reason why, in my opinion, I think it persists is the socio-economic context of our dear country. In a country where a lot of people, a lot of Nigerians, young people, find it difficult to feed themselves, find it difficult to get desired jobs. Sometimes they take recourse to religious practices, and to make it faster, they have interest in magical practices, in magic, in manipulation of supernatural forces, and this is equal to folk religion or folk religious practices. The second reason why this phenomenon has persisted or persists in Nigeria is also due to the indoctrination. Not many Muslims know what Islam teaches. The same way, not many Christians know what Christianity teaches. We have many people, many programs, many religious leaders who themselves don't know what their religion, Orthodox, stand for. A lot of people just become Christians and they become leaders in the context of indoctrination. The same thing to Islam, the same thing to other religions. And one more reason is, in Africa, we are a people who love supernatural expressions. Many people think that when they are able to exhibit certain level of supernatural resources, it allows them, it fosters their social status and their respect in the communities where they live. So to, gather respect and to improve on their social status, they go into this. Lastly, I also want to mention that in Nigeria, we have a culture where we also seem to respect only people who show magic powers. And that is why we, unknown to us, promote, folk religions. in Nigeria?
Well, I think that response is very brilliant because when you were talking, you said something about people wanting to do supernatural things, because I think that there is something that my pastor usually says is that there is something in every human that wants to celebrate the supernatural or that craves the supernatural. And that's why even in the entertainment world, superhero movies, all of those things, they are high grossing movies because there is something in man that wants to be more than ordinary or more than natural.
Fantastic.
So thank you so much for that response. So moving on, some churches today promote fear-based spirituality, maybe in the way they conduct their services or programs, or I don't know, but they sell objects, anointed objects, or extreme deliverance rituals. I'm not here to name names or to mention names, but we see these things. They give you holy water, they take you by the stream, or they tell you to pay for. I have experienced it personally before, where I was asked to buy a 5-liter keg. Then they will give me a special kind of water. What do you think that all of these things contribute, to this folk religion? And then how does it, comparing it to biblical principles now, what do you think?
Yeah, I think we have some kind of emergence of kind of Christianities on the continent of Africa that is totally different to biblical spirituality. The biblical values and ethos of selflessness, of mutual respect, of respect for humanity, of respect for justice and equality is largely absent. We now have a brand of new religions on the continent of Africa that give premium to selfishness, to capitalism, to profit making, to self-economic advancement. In fact, we now have a sort of Christianity and also Islam in Africa that humanize ourselves. We now seek our own gains in churches. We seek our own profit. Even in mosque, those who are Muslims, it is no longer what benefits humankind or what glorifies the name of the Lord for those who are Christians, where I belong. Now, Section 38 of Nigerian Constitution provide the context for anyone to do his religion. However, there is a critical derogation in the same section that stipulates that if the freedom for anyone, for any Nigerian, or for anyone in Nigeria, to practice his or her religion is also derogated on human rights, on public morality, on public ethics and morality. If your religion, if your ritual religion, if whatever you practice is going to have adverse effect on public morality, on humanity, then your right to religious freedom is derogated. So I want to counsel that we go back to the Bible. The Bible is very clear. Now we have corporate urbanized Christianity where we teach principles to build companies and wealth, not to build Christ's kingdom. It is totally different to biblical spirituality and biblical ethics. We have to go to the Bible. We need a new generation of Christian leaders in Africa who will show the way, who will point humankind to the Bible. No other alternative. The Bible is not one out of the many. The Bible is the way.
The only way.
The only way.
Yes, and I believe that there needs to be a balance, between these things. Even the Bible contains principles. So I believe that there is a way they can be taught without tilting towards an extreme at the expense of another truth. Well, thank you so much for that response, Doctor. So moving on, there is a very dark aspect of folk religion in Nigeria that is in connection to ritual killings. We've seen cases like the Otokoto saga in Imo State. The Ibadan ritual then, I was even in Ibadan at the time when they were saying soca and all of those things. And, there are modern day Yahoo Plus killings, and there are even recent happenings nearby in states all around us of people practicing these things, believing that when they do this, there is a spiritual benefit that they stand to gain. You unalive someone and then you believe that would enrich you or something. Why do you really think that these practices continue despite modernization, law enforcement? And it's obvious that when you work, you can be paid. You can earn money through honest work. So why do you think that this persists?
It is alarming, and it also becoming frightening. Of the cases of increasing cases of ritual killings by religious leaders. And we must not make a mistake that this exists only in religion. As we have evidences as we have alleged evidence of occurrences of this ritual killing in Christianity in Nigeria, we also have the same in Islam. Why do I think, in my opinion, this persists? Number one, the culture of silence. We in Africa believe that those who are calm and silent, they are spiritual. Whereas in the Bible, those that God raised, equipped and sent and individuals who went around interrogating issues in their communities and their context, rebuking those who are false teachers. Now we have a set of religious leaders in Africa, in Nigeria, who mind their own business. So we have a culture of silence.
We
have to speak. And I'm going somewhere. We call it have a culture of fear. Nobody wants to address this matter. If it doesn't happen to you, you don't care. Until they kill your sister, it doesn't affect you. So until when something happens in our communities, either it connects to you by those who are connected to you by blood, or your family members, or your church members, or your mosque members, or not. Once something happens that has a negative implication on human rights, speak as a religious leader. So we have a culture of silence, a culture of fear, and then we also have good policy. We have clear constitution, but we seem to have mutual political will to speak about justice. In Nigeria, we think only the leaders should promote justice. I want to suggest that in Nigeria, we should have mutual orientation, mutual responsibility to promote justice. It is my work. It is your work. If somebody is killed, it's not my family member. I should be able to come and speak against it. I should condemn ritual killing. And I want to recommend that now in the North Central, we hear of a Christian singer in Abuja who killed his girlfriend. Allegedly killed his girlfriend. The same also happened in another state in Kwara State. Alleged, still ongoing investigation. But even now, as the court is doing their investigation and no one is able to judge what will happen in the court, but now the prevalence of ritual killing, we must see people, civil organizations, religious communities, religious NGOs, institutions of religious, place of learning should come out clear to condemn ritual killing, to campaign against ritual killing. Especially, it now begins to involve young girls, female children, young girls who are supposed to become mothers in our nation. We are and they are defeating. They are forceless. Somebody must come who will speak on their behalf and condemn this. That's my opinion. So the culture of silence and culture of fear, and the culture of I don't care unless it's my family member that is concerned. That's why this thing continues in our country.
I believe that what you're trying to say in essence is that every Nigerian needs to take responsibility for their neighbor.
Mutual responsibility.
Yes, you have to take responsibility. Now, let's talk about solutions. What role should the church? You've mentioned a bit of that, but I just want you to dwell a bit further on it, what role should the church and religious leaders play in eradicating harmful folk religious practices in Nigeria?
Yeah, I think the Christian church, and I use the word Christian church intentionally,
Okay.
because it seems we now have some gatherings that are not biblical and not Christian. But for those who have the sense of conviction for biblical supremacy and authority upon their Christian life, who have accepted the Lord Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, it is now the time for us as Christians in Nigeria to see our relevance beyond the pulpit.
Yes.
We must now speak to evil happenings in our communities. We must come out and speak. Martin Luther did the same or similar thing in his time, and then he was able to speak for those who are voiceless. And today, the same country where people were victimized, they now enjoy freedom. We must now see a generation of Christian leaders in Nigeria who will see their ministry in the civil societies, who will see their ministries in human rights advocacy, who will see their ministries and their calling. In Nigeria, we have many different ministers. We have only few leaders who know how to speak and interrogate socio-political issues. So we need strong, bold, confident, equipped, well-trained leaders in Nigeria who will not only preach on the pulpit, but who will see as part of their defined mission and mandate to interrogate issues, to speak for the voiceless, to speak on behalf of the victims, and to be involved in policy formulation.
Yes, I was just going to chip this in that how do they ensure justice even for people who are who are victims of these practices?
Yeah, Damilola, there's what we call lobby. One of the principles of advocacy is documentation, which we spoke in our earlier podcast edition. There is also what is called lobby. Lobby is to be involved in a strategic conversations with stakeholders that are involved. For instance, in Kwara State of Nigeria, a Muslim lady was allegedly killed, and nobody is authorized to say a final thing because it's an issue going on in the court. This is a Muslim girl. The Christians in Kwara State must not say that it's not a Christian girl and they're quiet. No. The lady who was allegedly killed is a human being. The Christians must not say she was a Muslim and they keep quiet. So that is what they call lobby. Lobby is when the religious leaders now involved in meaningful conversations, not emotional conversations, well-informed, data-driven, strategic conversations with security agencies, with government leaders, with members of House of Assembly in various states, to lobby for them, to lobby in favor of relevant policy formulation. The Christians leaders in Nigeria in now must see the Christian church as, those who have been called by God, waiting for the coming of Christ, but who must also be relevant as a civil organization in their context. We now need people like Martin Luther, like Desmond Tutu, who will speak for those who are voiceless in Nigeria. I want to also chip in that religion is very significant to fight for human rights. We are religious. Religion is a critical national resource in Nigeria that we can mobilize to interrogate and lobby and speak for those who are voiceless.
Wow, thank you so much. Yeah. And lastly, there is something I want you to quickly address, and I want you to tailor your response to two sets of people. Now, for youth, young ones who are indulging in these practices, if you were to say something to them, what would you say to them? And secondly, to the people who have lost someone to these events or this folk religion or these evil practices, what would you have to say to them?
Yeah, I just want to mention two things. The first is to emphasize mentorship.
Okay.
We are blessed in Nigeria with strategic Christian leaders. I call on our fathers. We are honored to have them before us. Respected and respectful Pentecostal leaders, charismatic leaders, evangelical leaders, No, not any time in the history of Nigeria that we are blessed with strategic leaders like this decade. Our leaders, those who are coming behind need mentorship. They have seen you successful. The younger generations now have seen the older generations successful. They also want to be successful. They don't know the way.
How?
They think that ritual killing is the way. They think that magic is the way. Our leaders also share their testimonies of greatness, but sometimes they don't also share their testimonies of the sweat they went through before they become successful. We need holistic mentorship. The last point I also want to make on how I think this can be eradicated, like a counsel to my colleagues who are young religious leaders. I will be selfish, Damola, at this point. The younger generations, Pentecostal leaders, charismatic leaders, music leaders, Islamic leaders, if I also want to be broad in my perspective, they can learn from evangelical spirituality. I see myself as a young religious leader who has ministry beyond my denomination. But I am trained, bred by evangelical church winning, where we are trained to be patient, where we are trained to follow due process, where we are trained with discipline and integrity. I think if other religious leaders in Africa learn the principles of diligence, of the ethos of selfishness and mentorship that is enshrined in the evangelical spirituality and denominations in Africa, the ritual killing will be abated. I think I might be selfish, but we are trained to be hard work and to work for what we have. We are trained to work for several years before we emerge. I think there's what we can learn from the evangelical spirituality. Yes. Mentorship and the culture of integrity, discipline, and patience enshrined in the evangelical spirituality is one of the critical steps. To minimize
spiritual who have lost someone.
Yeah, for those who have their family members paid supreme price in the context of ritual killing occasioned by religious leaders in Nigeria, especially our beloved sister who was allegedly killed in Ilorin, our beloved sister who was allegedly killed in Abuja, all in this year 2025. Our sincere condolence to their family members. I want to ensure their family members that they should pursue justice. They should not say because these young girls were killed by religious leaders and in the name of God, cover it. They should pursue to later justice. If justice is pursued and served, then their family members were not killed for nothing. At least if justice, is served on those cases, other people will learn.
Yes.
And then it then means that those who are killed, allegedly killed, become heroines that, will become a source of lessons for others, that this thing will not continue in our country.
Wow, thank you so much. What a robust conversation we've had tonight on this topic of folk religion, justice, and human rights. And if you didn't hear so much today, I want you to go with this, that you should be hardworking, be patient, be diligent, and maintain integrity, and eventually you will be successful. Really, the Lord blesses everyone's labor, so you shouldn't. I believe that these things are seen as shortcuts, but at the long run, it's a long cut. If there is anything like that, permit me to say. But please, let's desist for people who still practice this. Desist from doing such. Young ones should be taught that there is no shortcut or short route to wealth or to success. And that's going to be it on today's episode of Theo-Sight Network. Thank you so much, Dr. Adeboye.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
The very wonderful and brilliant conversation that we've had here today. So until next time we'll come your way, I remain your host, Damilola Sankolaniyo. Enjoy the rest of